Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to Mock Games, and today I'm bringing you the first episode in what I'm hoping is going to be a 3-part mini-series in which we're going to build a brand new coaster which is also going to be intertwined with a flat ride in some really awesome looking scenery. Now, I've never really done a roller coaster that interacts with a flat ride, so that is one of the reasons why I'm going to be taking on this challenge. Also, I really want to do a coaster that has really in-depth scenery, which is something I've never really done before. Obviously, I've done coasters before and I've done scenery alongside those coasters, but I really want to build a theme around this roller coaster. Now, this roller coaster is going to be a Eurofighter style Gerstlauer coaster, and we're also going to have a big wheel in the middle. Now, this coaster is going to have probably 2 inversions, or I think 3 inversions, because it's going to have a pretzel loop, which I'm guessing is 2 inversions. It goes upside down twice, and also we're going to have a corkscrew in there as well. So those are the main elements to this roller coaster, and what you're going to see over the next about 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes is the first episode of the 3-part series. Now, this is going to be a really in-depth series. There's a lot of detail. I'm currently about 70% of the way through this build as I'm recording this commentary, and we're already about 65,000 pieces into the scenery for this coaster. So there's lots and lots of design to come for this series. Hopefully you guys are really going to enjoy it. This coaster is actually based on something I saw on YouTube. There's this guy on YouTube, I'll put the link in the description, that makes amazing looking coasters out of K'NEX. If you don't know what K'NEX is, it's basically a toy from the 90s where you can snap pieces together, and he makes these awesome coasters out of it. It's all made out of plastic, a little bit like Lego, but instead of bricks you have like weird shapes that you can snap in. And he actually built something very similar to what I'm going to be building. Obviously, the limitations with Planet Coaster, I can't build exactly what he did, but I'm taking the general idea, and I'm going to be using the kind of K'NEX look to try and theme this coaster as well. So the link to his video will be in the description. If you want to go check it out, go do that after this video, and you'll get a little bit of a better idea on what I was trying to go for with the scenery, the design of the coaster, and everything. So yes, in today's video we're going to be setting up with most of the track design. Now, the actual track design for this coaster took me around 3 hours. I'm doing all custom inversions myself. Everything is hand done. I'm not using any of the presets that come with Planet Coaster, although those are great. Fitting them in and doing stuff with them wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this all by hand, so a lot of trial and error, a lot of inversions that I've never attempted before in Planet Coaster will be going into this. So it took me extra time to make sure everything was smooth, everything was great, and the coaster was running as intended. I'm also going to be giving this coaster its own custom support, so all of the supports that come preset with this coaster are going to be removed, and I'm actually going to be placing my own ones that I'm going to be fabricating later on in today's video. So as you guys can see, I'm currently working on the barrel roll that goes through the center of this big wheel. Now, one thing I will point out with this track is that it's obviously a triangle shape, and every single side of this track looks very similar. So I was actually getting really confused on which side of this triangle was the actual track that the car was going to run on, and many times I was rotating this track thinking I was making a really nice smooth looking inversion through here, and then when I actually sent the car through this, I realized that I'd actually twisted it too much or not enough, because I thought that the wrong side of this track was actually the top half. Now, because this is being sent through the big wheel straight through the middle, it wasn't actually putting any supports through here, and usually when building this Gerstlauer track, it's easy to tell which way is up due to the way that the supports are holding the track up. So because it wasn't giving me a track support through the middle of this big wheel, as you can see here, I was actually struggling to work out a lot of the time which way was up. That sounds really stupid and makes me sound really dumb, but yeah, I was losing track, and this inversion in particular took me way longer than first expected. So after this inversion was actually finally done, I got round to finally working once again on the pretzel loop that is going to be going out the front of this ride. Now, I've never built a custom pretzel loop before myself, so this took a lot of trial and error, looking at a lot of photos online to see how this would work in the real life, also comparing what I was building to what was in my reference, obviously the video that I mentioned a little bit earlier on. I wanted to keep it as much as close to the original video of the K'NEX model roller coaster as I possibly could, but that was really difficult because obviously that ride isn't built to the specifications of a roller coaster in real life. That's just made out of a toy. So actually building something in Planet Coaster, which is a lot more realistic than building a roller coaster out of K'NEX, was pretty difficult. And making it too small would send the cars through way too quick, and possibly making it too big would mean that it would get stuck or it would roll back. So had to make sure that I scaled these inversions perfectly to what I wanted, otherwise the track just wouldn't work. The roller coaster itself wouldn't work, it wouldn't function as it should do, and that would probably be a really bad idea. We don't want any cars rolling back, we don't want guests getting stuck on this ride, but we also want it to look as impressive and fantastic looking as we possibly can. So it was a really mixed bag of trial and error when it came to building this coaster. Of course, the reference work, the video, it was a much more compact coaster, but due to the size of the big wheel in Planet Coaster, it was much of a more spread out roller coaster. And once I got everything sorted out, I got everything smoothed and exactly how I wanted it to. I actually preferred the look of the coaster I'd actually built than the one that was in the original video. Obviously you guys can go watch that video and take a look for yourself, because his video is fantastic, and what he was able to build out of that K'NEX was just awesome. So it's great to be inspired by something like that and try and replicate that in this game. So yeah, so as you can see, we are finally getting down to working on this pretzel loop. I think it was actually 4 attempts before I nailed this. The first attempt was just crazy bad. The second attempt was a little bit better, and this is actually the third and final attempt. As you can see, the bottom left hand corner of this pretzel loop is not great, but we reworked it, we smoothed it out, and we got it working as intended, and it looks really good. It works really nice when you ride through this, and I would say it's probably the best part of this coaster. It's actually silky smooth riding through here, which is a surprise to me, because I thought I was going to have more problems with this inversion than I was going to possibly have with the one going through the main ride in the middle. But it was the other way around. This one was a lot easier, a lot smoother. It rides a lot better than the roll that we have going through the middle. But yeah, it looks really great, and I'm happy with the way that it turns out. So here is a little bit of a sneak peek of this pretzel knot. This isn't actually 100% smoothed at this point, but you're going to get the idea of this inversion. So the overall design of this coaster is now pretty much complete. However, the track wasn't fully smoothed out. It was a little bit janky in places, so obviously I went back in, changed a few of these sections of the ride just so they looked better, they looked more pleasing on the eye, and they actually rode a little bit better. One thing I found with this Eurofighter style track is that the slightest bend in the wrong place will send the car bouncing from left to right. It will make the ride feel really rough, and you really want to make sure that you get those pieces smooth, because otherwise when you're riding it, it's not going to be great. It's not going to be what you expect it to be. So I had to make sure that everything was done properly, and I would rather spend the time now before I've actually put my custom supports in than have to go back later and move all of my supports if I have to go back in and smooth anything. So before I was even thinking about making my custom supports, it was making sure the track was complete in the places, the final resting places for all of this track, make sure all of the track was smoothed out as I wanted it to before we could actually move on to actually putting in the supports for this coaster. Because trust me, once the supports are in on this coaster, it looks so much better. There's just way too many supports on this thing right now, and hopefully once I've got those customs in, you guys are going to really start to enjoy the look of this coaster. So it is finally time to start working on these custom supports. Now I really wanted to emulate the look of the K'NEX supports that the dude in the video that I mentioned a little bit earlier had made for his ride. They looked really great, and of course I really wanted to have the feel that this was the theme for this coaster, so I wanted it to look and resemble that as closely as possible. So these are really intricate looking support. Well, at least I think they are anyway. You guys can let me know in the comment section. So basically these supports are just made out of wooden beams. Obviously they're supposed to emulate plastic supports that are on the original, but yeah, I think they turned out pretty good, and we're going to be placing these in strategic places. Now I am going to be putting them in places that are similar to the ones in the video, but also in places where they would probably be in real life. So I have looked at a lot of coasters, especially Gerstlauer manufactured coasters, because obviously this is the track type that we're working with. So making sure I have necessary supports in places where they would be in real life to make sure it's realistic enough to the point where this thing isn't going to fall down. But having said that, this coaster would never be built in real life, I don't think. It's really tall. I haven't actually checked how tall this coaster is, but it's pretty tall, compact. Maybe it would be built in real life. Obviously the design would have to be changed a little bit, but I'm not really too sure how realistic this coaster is when it comes to a real life setting. I'm sure people in the comments are going to tell me whether this coaster is realistic enough to be ever dreamt up in a real life scenario. I don't think personally it would be, but maybe, who knows. I'm not an engineer, so I can't give you those answers. I just think this coaster looks pretty cool. It's a nice compact design, and I really like it. And if this could ever be built in real life, that would be awesome. But personally, I don't think so. I don't think this would ever be concocted, at least not in any park that's open these days. But there we go. So as you can see, these supports have been made. Obviously they're going to have to be duplicated and made a little bit longer for certain points of this coaster. Obviously some points are going to have really small supports, obviously some points are going to have really big supports. I'm also going to be going back in hopefully and putting in some extra thin supports, just for extra support on certain areas. But we'll have to see about that a little bit later on. Probably in episode 2 we'll do that, but currently we're just going to be going in, putting in the necessary support for this coaster. I actually didn't record all of this. Some of this footage for me putting in the supports did actually get corrupted, unfortunately, so some of that's going to have to be cut out of the video, but you guys get the idea anyway. We're just going in, placing these in necessary places to actually hold up the coaster. So we're back. It's day 2 of putting in supports in this coaster. We're about halfway through at this point, and now we're putting in some of the bigger supports for this ride, just to make sure this ride doesn't collapse on us, because that would be awful. But yeah, we will be going in a little bit later on, probably one of the last things I do with this coaster after everything else is done, all of the decorations, all of the supports are done, everything like that. I'll be going back in and actually add in the connections and the footers for these supports as well. So don't worry, I am going to be putting in connections to actually bind them to the track. But I need to do a little bit of research on what they look like when it comes to Gerstlauer track. I'm not really too positive on how they connect their actual supports to their track, so I need to go do a little bit of research, make sure I get those accurate. But yeah. So next up on the list of things to do for this coaster was to actually do a little bit of decoration work to the big wheel in the center of this piece. So what I did, I just got a new big wheel, I placed it down, and I got some of my supports, and I decided to actually encase the main ring on the inside with some of these Connects looking supports, just so we had a little bit more texture, a little bit more design, and it kind of joined in a little bit more with the theme of the main ride. Of course, all the supports and a lot of surrounding decoration to this ride are going to have this kind of wooden Connects like supports theme to the ride, so I just wanted to make sure that we actually added a little bit of that to the main big wheel in the center. So basically all I did was copy and paste this until we had a full loop, and then once we had a full loop I just deleted the big wheel, copied it over to the main one that was in the center of our ride, and that was pretty much it. We at that point had some really nice looking design work on the inside of our big wheel that kind of paired it up with the ride. It didn't at that point look like a separate entity. It looked like it was supposed to be there, and it was meant to be there from the beginning, and I think it really helps kind of tie the two together. So that was what I was going for, and I think I succeeded with that. You guys will have to let me know in the comments whether you like this addition, but personally for me I really like how this turned out, so I was quite happy with getting the big wheel hooked up with some nice looking scenery. So the next thing I did for this ride was actually add a ring around the outside of the ride, which is the pathing system for this ride. So this is going to be a section obviously of the park, and guests will come in and they'll walk up, and it'll be a raised path system that loops around the whole of the attraction. It's a really nice way of actually getting guests around here without cluttering the area. And obviously the main pathing system for the queue line and the exit and all of that good stuff will be actually inside the main ring. So once that was done, I worked on actually encasing this inner ring with some more of the Connect support. So the same style supports that we used for the ride itself will actually encase the inner ring of this ride. So the really good thing about that is on the exterior of the pathing we can work on some buildings, some more decorations in the next couple of episodes, and actually in the next episode we're going to be working on some more of the rock work, some more of the scenery for this area, as well as the main station area. The station has come out really nicely. I'm really happy with the way the station's come out, so do make sure you guys come back for episode 2, and then episode 3 we'll get everything finished up, and then we'll also have a POV of this ride once it's fully complete, put up on the channel as soon as possible. So that is pretty much it for the first episode of this build. I currently do not have a name for this coaster, so if you guys want to come up with some names for this coaster in the description, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe I'll pick a winner, maybe there'll be a prize involved, who knows. And yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like this coaster, let me know if you like the design and the way this coaster's going, and yeah, just generally give me an idea of what you're thinking in the comment section. Leave a like, feel free to subscribe if you're new to the channel. It's great to have you watching the videos, and of course I will see you guys in the next video. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys very soon.